Before diving into this incredible story, remember to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Here, every story has something to say, and you won't want to miss a single one. Atlanta, 2005. Rain was falling in fine drops on the small apartment of Lisa Johnson, a 26-year-old black woman, her eyes tired but her heart full of hope. In her arms, her triplets, barely 2 years old, slept peacefully, unaware of the storm that was raging over their family. Daniel Carter, her husband of 4 years, stood in the doorway, his face expressionless. His eyes, once filled with love, were now cold and calculating. "Lisa. I can't go on like this," he said, his voice trembling but resolute. "3 children. I can't cope. I have to think of myself now." Lisa felt the world crumble around her. Her hands trembled, her lips refused to form a word. She had dreamed of a life together, of a united family, but Daniel had just swept away all those illusions with an icy breath. Without waiting for her answer, he cast one last glance at the children, a mixture of regret and cold indifference, then turned on his heel and left. The door slammed behind him, leaving Lisa alone with her triplets and an uncertain future. That night, as the rain continued to fall, Lisa made a silent promise: "I will protect them. I will raise them, and you'll see, Daniel, one day you'll regret what you've done." 20 years later, fate would knock on his door in the most unexpected way. Daniel, who thought he had gained everything by abandoning his family, would discover that time and Lisa's courage had built something that no fortune could buy. Atlanta, 2005. Lisa Johnson's apartment still echoed with the sound of Daniel slamming the door. The triplets, Marcus, Tiffany, and Elijah, tossed and turned in their beds, oblivious to the tragedy that had just struck their family. Lisa sat on the sofa, her head in her hands, tears falling silently. She remembered every word Daniel had spoken, that mixture of coldness and certainty that had broken her heart. 3 children. I have to think of myself. Those words echoed in her head like a cruel curse. She knew he wouldn't come back. The next day, Lisa got up before dawn. She had to feed, dress, and take her triplets to daycare before starting her workday. Every task was a struggle, but she refused to give in to despair. She found a job at a small communications company, working long hours, often until midnight, before returning to her quiet apartment. The nights were the hardest, the children's crying, the crushing loneliness, and the constant memory of the man she had loved and who had abandoned everything. But Lisa had an inner fire that nothing could extinguish. Every smile from her children, every small step forward they made at school, every burst of laughter was a victory against tragedy. She kept repeating to herself, "I'm going to give them a better life, no matter the cost." Meanwhile, in New York, Daniel lived in a luxurious apartment, surrounded by promises of success and superficial new relationships. But every night, when he returned alone to his silent grandeur, a feeling of emptiness settled in. The triplets, whom he had never taken the time to get to know, began to haunt his dreams. He thought he had freed himself, but the weight of his choices followed him like a shadow he couldn't escape. Thus began the long journey of Lisa, alone but determined, and of Daniel, unaware of the price he would pay for his abandonment. Years passed. Lisa Johnson never let loneliness or financial difficulties get her down. She juggled her 2 jobs, sometimes working late into the night to pay the rent and provide for her triplets. Every day was a struggle, but she never wanted Marcus, Tiffany, and Elijah to feel the weight of abandonment. Marcus, the eldest, showed a strong sense of responsibility from a very young age. He helped his mother prepare meals, looked after his siblings, and did his homework with surprising discipline for a 6-year-old. Tiffany, bursting with energy and imagination, dreamed of becoming an entrepreneur, creating imaginary businesses from the age of 5. Elijah, the youngest, had a compassionate heart and a curious mind, always asking questions about the world around him. Lisa strove to create a warm home despite the difficulties. She made impromptu dinners, told bedtime stories, and constantly repeated to them, "We have everything we need here: love, courage, and confidence." The triplets grew up surrounded by strong values, learning to support each other and see challenges as opportunities. For his part, Daniel lived his life superficially. Social events, new conquests, and promotions seemed to fill the void in his existence, but nothing could replace the warmth of a close-knit family. Sometimes he imagined himself with his children, but he pushed those thoughts away, convinced that his choice to leave was the right one. However, fate had its own plans. While Lisa and her children worked hard to build their future, the world was preparing the confrontation that would make Daniel pay the price for his abandonment. The triplets grew up bright, confident, and determined, ready to prove that love and resilience can triumph over all adversity. 20 years after Daniel left, Lisa Johnson was no longer the vulnerable young woman he had left behind. At 46, she ran her own marketing firm in Atlanta, known for its integrity and efficiency. Her triplets, now adults, each excelled in their respective fields. Marcus, a respected lawyer, was working on social justice issues and never hesitated to defend the most vulnerable. Tiffany, a dynamic entrepreneur, had created a thriving technology startup, inspiring other young women to follow their dreams. Elijah, a talented doctor, was working in a renowned hospital, passionately saving lives and empathy. The family was close-knit, their success a testament to Lisa's courage and perseverance. The house they shared was full of laughter, lively discussions, and a warmth that Daniel had sorely missed. One day, at a marketing conference in New York, Daniel Carter came face to face with Lisa. He had heard of her success, but nothing had prepared him for seeing her, elegant, confident, radiant, and surrounded by 3 adults who looked like shooting stars. The shock was immediate. "Lisa," he began hesitantly, his voice betraying a mixture of surprise and regret. "Daniel," she replied calmly, her gaze piercing and her smile polite but distant. "It's been a long time." Daniel felt his ego waver. He had thought he could make up for everything with a simple word or gesture, but facing Lisa and her children, he realized that 20 years of distance and neglect couldn't vanish instantly. Every success Lisa achieved, every burst of laughter from her children, every proud glance they exchanged, was a stark reminder of what he had lost. This moment marked the beginning of an inevitable confrontation. Daniel would have to face the truth. He could not buy back lost time or erase the years of love and resilience that Lisa had built on her own. A few days after their meeting in New York, Daniel couldn't get the image of Lisa and the triplets out of his mind. Every success, every smile from his children seemed to hit him like a cruel reminder of his past mistakes. Unable to remain passive, he decided to contact Lisa. "Lisa, I know I shouldn't, but I have to talk to you," he wrote in an awkward message. She simply replied, "If you want to talk, it will be in person. In Atlanta." When he arrived, he found himself facing a house full of life. The triplets were there, Marcus with his serious, lawyer-like demeanor, Tiffany radiating confidence, and Elijah with his compassionate yet wary smile. Daniel immediately felt the weight of his children's silent judgment. Lisa greeted him politely, but her eyes betrayed neither anger nor sadness. "Daniel, you're 20 years behind the times in understanding what a family is," she said calmly. "Do you think a few words can undo 2 decades of neglect?" Daniel tried to justify his choices. I thought I was doing the right thing, for us." Marcus, who had remained silent until then, intervened. "For you, yes. For us, it was abandonment. You missed all our birthdays, our successes, our trials." Tiffany added, her gaze hardening, "You can't come back into our lives and erase everything. You have to understand that we've grown up despite you." Elijah, gentler but firm, concluded, "Mother gave us everything we needed. She raised us with love, courage, and dignity. And it is thanks to her that we are who we are." Daniel felt a mixture of shame and pain wash over him. For the first time, he understood that money, success, and apologies couldn't replace the 20 lost years. The triplets and Lisa were a force he couldn't ignore or control. This confrontation marked a turning point in his life. He could no longer run from his past. Regret assailed him, but he would have to learn to live with it, because some things, like love and loyalty, cannot be easily redeemed. A few weeks after the confrontation, Daniel tried again to reconnect. He sent messages, attempted to invite them to lunch, offering apologies and promises to make up for lost time. But Lisa and the triplets remained firm. The past cannot be rewritten, and their family was not for sale. Lisa decided to teach Daniel one last lesson, not out of revenge, but to show him that his choices had irreversible consequences. She invited Daniel to dinner, but not to reconcile him. Sitting at the table, Daniel realized he wasn't there to be welcomed as a father or a husband. The table was filled with laughter, success stories, and shared love. Marcus, Tiffany, and Elijah were talking about their plans, their achievements, and their mother's strength. Lisa spoke up. "Daniel, look what we have built, despite your absence. We are happy, united, and strong. You thought your departure would break us, but you only revealed our strength. You chose your comfort, and we chose love and resilience." Daniel felt a deep pain, a bitterness that no amount of wealth could soothe. For the first time, he understood that some losses were permanent. He couldn't buy back the love, the respect, or the years of life he had missed. Leaving the house that evening, Daniel walked alone in the rain, overwhelmed by a mixture of shame and regret. Lisa and the triplets stayed behind, radiant and united, a family intact despite the shadow of the past. That night, Daniel finally realized, he had lost everything because he had chosen selfishness. And Lisa, with courage and determination, had proven that true love always triumphs over abandonment and regret.